Production funding for Ruckus has been provided by Fred and Lou Hartwig and viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Ruckus, where we fight tooth and nail and sometimes tongue-in-cheek over the news of the day and the trends of the times. I'm Mike Shannon. The Ruckettes join me in a moment to talk about the American Royals' beef with Kemper Arena, Sprint's new head of the Framily, and the shooting and looting that's causing headaches and heartaches for Missouri's governor and the people of Ferguson. But first, our Ruckus Headliner segment with John Murphy of Citizens for Responsible Government. The group has been active in recent years fighting plans for building a one-terminal airport to replace the current KCI structure, and most recently opposed the expansion of the streetcar system. That expansion was defeated at the polls. Mr. Murphy, welcome to the program. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
So what's not to like about streetcars?
Well, you know, streetcars are a very expensive investment. And the city would be spending over $1 billion to build it, and the way they were financing it was horrendous. They were going to create a sales tax that is a regressive tax that hurts the poor, and the second leg of that financing was an assessment on property owners in the district that they were going to create. That assessment would also apply to nonprofits. So virtually all of the private charitable institutions in the city were in that district.
So your objections were financial, not the idea of transit?
No, I think, you know, if Kansas City was a city jam-packed with people and crowded, and people couldn't get from, say, the plaza to downtown without, like New York City, if it was Broadway in New York City, I would say let's talk about it. We don't have that problem.
Were you
here.
opposed to the starter streetcar line downtown?
Well, I don't live downtown, but I'm opposed to the way they've been financing it. They've been taking millions of dollars out of the general fund to pay for it.
What about the argument that streetcars, mass transit if you will, creates economic development, and backers of these plans say downtown is already seeing millions of dollars in investments because of the forthcoming downtown streetcar starter line?
I would say they're leaning on a very weak read, and the reason is what's going on downtown is the Power and Light District, which has been financed by the city. They've got housing going up that is basically subsidized housing for the yuppie class, and I don't see anybody coming in, new businesses coming in that are not being subsidized by the city with either TIF financing or outright subsidies.
What about the argument that once the downtown line is up and running, a year or so from now, presumably, and people will go downtown, they'll ride the streetcar, they'll love the experience, and they'll start to clamor for additional streetcar lines?
Well, you know, we've got a very nice bus that goes through Brookside. It's called the Max, and I've taken it downtown on a number of occasions. And in the evenings or in the mornings, sometimes I'm the only guy on it. And I'm like wondering, where are these people going to be coming out of?
Are you going to go down and ride the starter streetcar line once it starts?
I think my young children will like to do that, and they will do that. But, you know, again, it's free, and at the end of the day, it's going to hurt Kansas City economically.
Let's talk about your organization, Citizens for Responsible Government. Does that title suggest you think there are irresponsible governments in the area?
We see a lot of irresponsible things coming out of 12th and Oak the last decade or so.
How many governments do you think are irresponsible? Are you talking only about Kansas City, Missouri and Jackson County?
Jackson County, and if there's something coming out of the state, we will oppose it as well. But for the most part, we live in Kansas City. We're probably not going to take on the federal government. That's kind of a big thing to do. I can't fix Syria. I can't fix Iraq.
Nobody can fix Syria or Iraq.
That's probably true, but we can do a lot and have a lot to say in Kansas City. We live here. We want to fight for Kansas City. We like Kansas City. We think it's a great city. We just think that the city government is coming out with a lot of bad ideas that's going to long-term hurt Kansas City. Are you
supporting any projects, any public works projects in the offing that you're aware of?
I would love to have better parks. I would love to have better sewers. I'd love to have better streets. I'd like to have safer streets. I'd like to see those ideas come out.
How many people make up the organization that we're talking about?
We are about six. We started with 6 people. There's about 20, but 6 are the most active in the group. Now, within that group, our email list has expanded to almost 1,000 people in a year.
Well, you said 6 members, I believe.
6, yep.
And I wondered if you think the mission of the organization might be a bit lofty or grandiose. It is protect the voters of our city, county, state, and nation.
Well, yeah, it sounds like a lofty thing, but that's what we're doing. We protected them on what we believe on the airport. We'll do it on the streetcar, and we'll be heavily involved in getting better schools for our community.
John, if somebody wants more information about the organization, is there a way they can contact you or someone?
We have a website, or actually I should say a Facebook page. It's savekci.com. We will be expanding it. I'm not the biggest social media guy in the world. I'm just figuring out Facebook, so I'm a little back on that, but you can contact us and we'll email you back.
Hey, thanks very much for coming by. I hope you'll come back and see us again in the future.
Thank you very much for having us, sir.
That is John Murphy with Citizens for Responsible Government. And now, let's ruckus. And it's time to meet the Ruckettes. Yael Abou-Haka is an editorial writer with the Kansas City Star. Gwen Grant is president and CEO of the Urban League. Amy Patton is a Midwest Voices writer at the Kansas City Star. And Ron Freeman is a motivational speaker and author. Welcome back to Yael and Gwen, and welcome aboard to Ron and Amy. Woody and Mary return next week. Major media and much of the nation are still focused on the turmoil in the Missouri town of Ferguson, where a white policeman shot and killed an unarmed 18-year-old black man on August the 9th. The shooting sparked rioting and chaos, leading Governor Jay Nixon to send in the National Guard. As events on the ground continue to play out, news analysts are starting to look at the impact of this crisis on the political future of Governor Jay Nixon, who leaves office in January 2017. There has been speculation that Nixon might challenge Senator Roy Blunt in 2016 or be seriously considered as a potential Democratic vice presidential nominee. Let's start our discussion by giving Nixon a grade on his handling of the situation in Ferguson thus far. Amy, what grade and why?
Well, with the way the events have unfolded, I've been watching it closely, I think like everyone has, and I think the grade that I can only give him is, if this is even a grade, an F-. I think that the amount of time that went on from the time that this erupted way back on that Sunday to the time that he actually came out and made a statement, which was on that next Wednesday, the silence was deafening. I think that the citizens of Missouri were actually going to put out a silver alert to see where in the world was the governor. I mean, it doesn't take much to grab an iPhone, find a podium, and say something. I just couldn't believe that in a time of need, he was nowhere to be found. And so it was very concerning. You know, he didn't have to, I think, what he said was, I want to see how the local authorities handle it. And the point was, they weren't handling it well. And what we need from our governor in that time is leadership, even a statement of comfort to the people to say, hey, I'm watching this to see what could happen.
I watched his first news conference the Friday after the Saturday the shooting occurred. And I must swear, it was incoherent. I had no idea what point he was trying to make, if any.
He was so obviously uncomfortable being in the community, interacting with the significant part of his constituency. And, you know, I agree with you, Amy. I mean, you gave him a better grade than I was going to give him, so.
How do you get lower than F-?
I don't know. You can't get any lower than that. But, you know, the problem is that Nixon historically has been absent from communication with the African-American community, so he's very uncomfortable in this setting. He's trying to maintain some political safe haven here, and it's just not working for him. This whole notion that he's going to be some national political figure going forward, I think, has been severely damaged under these circumstances. Let me show people
a quote that was attributed to you in the New York Times, and I'm sure you've clipped it out for your liberal.
No, I have not, but
scrapbook. You're quoted as saying, I think his historical lack of authentic connections and engagement with the black community is apparent in this situation by what I consider to be a tardy response to what is happening in Ferguson.
Yeah, I mean, here you have the President of the United States reacting. You have national figures reacting to what's happening in Ferguson, and Nixon is totally silent.
Let me get Ron in here. Ron, what kind of a grade would you, staunch right-winger, give Governor Nixon?
First of all, I find it comical that liberals are going after a Democrat. I think that's hilarious. However, I would say it's incomplete. Because here's a guy, what do you say? Because if you come down on the side of the young man, you're throwing the law enforcement under the bus. If you come on the side of law enforcement, you're throwing the young man under the bus. Perhaps he could say, hey, let's let cooler heads prevail.
This is a man who was Attorney General for 16 years. He was Attorney General. Why doesn't he say the rule of law will prevail, law and order, fairness and justice for not only the man who was shot and his family, but the officer involved?
Right.
Yeah, he could say that, but you know what? That's been said, and I think that's again. He's a governor.
He didn't say it.
He may have been late. This is why I'm saying it's incomplete. He could still come back.
So what was the grade you were going to assess
I'm
here?
saying incomplete because I think right now there's a whole lot to be done that's got to take place. But at the end of the day, that community has to make the call, not the governor.
Yale, what do you think about Mr. Nixon and his problems in Ferguson?
I think you guys have been too hard on him. Basically, which I'm finding myself a little surprised to say, let's actually look at the actions he's taken. I mean, he got rid of the St. Louis County Police Department, ruining things over there. That was a pretty, gutsy move. He had to get the Highway Patrol in there to take things on. I would say that bringing the National Guard in was late, but he had to have some force in there that could, free up law enforcement to do something else. Everyone's attacking him for not being, a black man or whatever, something like that.
That's what kind of, I don't think that's
attacking Nixon for not being a black man.
He's not acting like he understands the black community.
He's not acting like he's in charge.
African American people are a key part of this country, and he needs to be comfortable communicating.
Right.
I didn't say he needed to be a black man.
No, that's kind of basically what you were implying.
No, be a black man. That is a totally
the minute you say it's a black-white issue, every politician
and that's why I'm giving him a C. Because he's not supposed to be catering to the white or black community. He is supposed to be catering to the good spirit of Missouri, which is justice. And I thought Holder, just real quickly, when Holder came in here yesterday, as far as I could tell, in Ferguson, he said everything right. We're gonna do justice. We're gonna do this. And there are, as Nixon, you guys are being hard on Nixon. There are not one, not two, there are 3 autopsies out there. There are not one, there are at least 2 and probably going to be 3 special prosecutions of this thing.
Right.
There are going to be a lot of stuff happening. The governor of the state, and I will agree with everybody, he's not going to be the next vice president. He's not going to be the next senator. But because he has been incomprehensible in some stuff, I do agree. But I do think that we're being a little bit harsh on him in that he could handle this perfectly. I think he's done some things well. I do agree he's done some things poorly.
Well, let me ask a final question of all of you. I'll start with Amy. Do you think this officer, Darren Wilson, is going to get a fair trial? Do you think he has any chance of being acquitted?
I do, and I think that I believe in the Department of Justice to hold a fair investigation. I do, and we have to believe in that.
I think that if he's acquitted, all hell's going to break loose. And so you've already created the image that he's guilty.
Yale, do you think the officer will get a fair trial?
Yes, I do. I disagree with Ron. I think if the evidence shows that he should be acquitted, then he will deserve to be acquitted.
Then what happens in Ferguson?
Well, I assume
Civil
that they will.
I assume they will. We got to wrap it up here with
In the history of our criminal justice system, I've never seen a case where a police officer, especially a white police officer, did not get a fair trial. So I would assume, yes, he would get a fair trial.
All right.
The question would be, would an African American get a fair trial? That's a totally different conversation.
O.J. Simpson.
O.J.
If you watch television, if you watch television, you've probably met the Sprint family. That odd combination of humans and a hamster sharing the services of the Kansas City-based telecommunications company.
This morning, he asked me to join his family. Oh. Don't you think it's a bit personal?
Of course not. The more you add, the more you save.
I love those characters. Unfortunately, I guess they're going to disappear. Sprint, now the #3 wireless company, has an owner eager for growth and a new CEO, a new head of the family, Marcelo Clore, who tells Sprinters to expect decisive action and extensive examination of costs. Kansas Cityans generally root for Sprint, seeing it as the home team. But if you're not an employee, contractor, or customer, is there a reason to care about Sprint? Yeah.
Well, there is, because a couple things. I mean, one, you do have 7,500 local employees, so that's it's a good employment source. People who live generally out in Johnson County, but in the Kansas metropolitan area. They own homes. They pay school taxes. They pay property taxes that also provide public services. That's one aspect of it. I think the other aspect of it is, holy cow, this Kansas City area sucks when it comes to employment these days. I mean, we are losing locally based employers. And research I did a couple of weeks ago showing that we're 21st out of 25 metropolitan areas in job growth among our peers. That's horrible. And even though you have Cerner growing, which is good, when you have a big company like Sprint in such trouble, I mean, you could have asked me that question 2010, 2012, now we're 2014. They're trying to come back. Well, they're always trying to come back. At some point, we hope they make it because it is important to the Kansas City area to have a major employer.
What's been the problem? Why hasn't Sprint soared to #1?
I think the challenge is their network has been deficient. The quality of their network has really hurt them.
But work has been done on that. That was what the Dan Hesse administration was all about.
I think that what they're saying now is that they've got this Spark network, and it's going to be really fabulous. And so the jury's still out on that. And I think that the key piece here is that it's really difficult to get consumers to move from their carriers. Even though
they're sure making a strong try by doubling the data you can receive.
Doubling the data, but it's not. If you double the data and your network is always down, it doesn't mean a whole lot. And let me just say this: it's really important. I agree with Yael about the importance of Sprint thriving in this market. They are one of the best corporate citizens we have in Kansas City. They make a huge investment in the community in a number of ways, as well as the number of people they employ. So it is in our best interest to see them be more competitive in this market.
I think Sprint.
Rod, what about Mr. Clore? He's coming to Kansas City. He's in Kansas City to take control of the company. Do we expect him to become a major civic player in the area?
Well, again, I think the bottom line is business. And for Sprint and for Kansas City, we're looking at it from Josh's perspective. You're looking at it from the standpoint they want profits. And data is a critical piece. Which is interesting. It's a golden goose right now of the industry. And that's where you make your money. So for them to make that offer, because there's a lot of people, I mean, whether you're Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, you're getting jacked on your data charges. And so Sprint is coming in and saying, hey, we're going to help you on that point. And you know what, that's a good thing for them. But
let me ask Amy the question you refused to answer. Will Mr. Clore become a major player in the civic arena of Kansas City?
I hope so. I hope what he does, though, is he interjects some youth into the company. So I hope that he invigorates the company. I hope that LAD ad campaign, the Framley campaign.
Well, you can make money and be part of the civic leadership as well.
You can. I mean, that's what I hope.
They are a good system.
I hope that he brings a youthful spirit back to Sprint. I thought that the ad campaign that they last ran was a bad one.
Was that the Framley?
Framley. I mean, it was like the marrying of. Well, I mean, what they tried to do was marry like the Brangelina, the Brad and Angelina name, and it looked like a spelling error to me. Framley. I mean, that's what I kept thinking was, did you just mess up family?
You just did not understand Tom the hamster.
I never got the hamster. No.
Fear for people being laid off at Sprint, as Mr. Clore says he's going to take a hard look at costs and expenses.
Well, yeah, I mean that's always the fear, but to the point of how important Sprint is this area, which I think is really the key here. Yes, we want them to succeed. We want them to make money run. We want them to be involved in the community. I agree with all that stuff, but you also have to have something that makes you stand out. And for Verizon and AT&T, it's excellent service.
Right.
Now, I'm a Sprint customer for 10 years and complained along the way, but I'm also one of those people who stays in it because it's a hometown thing and they've actually done a decent job by me.
All right. The late Crosby Kemper Jr. spearheaded the drive to build Kemper Arena in 1974 to save the American Royal. Now, 40 years later, his son wants to tear it down for the same reason. Mariner Kemper is chairman of the American Royal Association, the group that holds the lease on the West Bottoms Arena through 2045. The Royal believes its survival depends on demolishing Kemper and erecting a smaller structure. Mariner and others hope to expand the Royals' horizons and also add youth sporting activities. A competing plan has been presented that the Royal rejects. No doubt Mr. Kemper has clout. Will he get his way on this one with the City Council? Gwen?
I don't know. Typically you might think the Kemper name and the clout might sway the council, but I think that the city would like to see a compromise. And
what is the compromise that's being proposed?
The compromise is that I think it's the Fouch developers want to build an arena that is more focused on youth sports and that type of thing, and share that.
It would keep
complex.
Kemper Arena standing.
Kemper Arena standing and build something nearby and combine the effort. Kemper, the American Royal is not interested in that scenario. the city, there's about $30 million in play, and what was interesting is Councilman Ford asked Mariner that, you know, would you walk away from the $30 million? And his answer was, well, you know, we might have to take a look at that. I think it's kind of hard to walk away from $30 million when you don't have all the money you need to do this development.
But the American Royal Association has a reason, at least it says it has a reason for not wanting the shared facilities concept, and that is it would take up too much of the space.
Too many parking spaces for the barbecue.
Yeah. Sporting KC and barbecue. That's critical.
There's a really easy way to end this. I go back to 1989 when they put together this plan, and the American Royal got $20 million to build a new building over there. And then a few months later, came in crying, we need $8 million more, and the public has given a lot of money to the American Royal. Here's the key. It's time for them to give back. Mariner came to come and say, hey, you know, we don't want 10 or, you know, we're not going to put 10 or 15 million in this deal. We're going to put 50 million in. So you tear down that Kemp Arena, which, by the way, I don't care. They tear it down and goes. Right. And then you can put your building up. I do think the whole other plan is fiscally not reckless, but questionable.
Pretty close.
Which plan? Is that the Fouch plan?
Okay. So I think that's potential.
Yeah.
And so I think just bottom line, for the taxpayers of Kansas City and the future of that area, have the Kemper/American Royal people put 10 million, 20, 30, 40 million in the deal. Oh,
so we're going to put in 10 million.
10 million. Okay, 40 million. All right, then that's
what we're going to accomplish. We're going to pour in 40, 60, 100 million. Hey, it's nothing, no big deal, right?
Ron, you've been around Kansas City for a while. Do you consider Kemper Arena to be iconic and something that would be hard to live without?
No, I think it's interesting that the namesake is in. We can do away with it and move forward. And I think at the end of the day, you got to put a plan on the table that's going to address the real issues of economic development. If we want to do something that empowers youth or helps provide for the needs of our youth, let's do that. But it doesn't have to say, well, let's get a developer and spend whatever. And again, I think that's where you get into trouble.
Well, you mentioned the sporting club, Sporting Kansas City. What role is it slated to play?
Well, they're committed to be involved with the youth and through youth soccer
at the American Royal.
Yeah, and you have the MLS, which again, Major League Soccer, they're the champions. They want to be there. However, if we go with the developers plan, they might bail on it altogether, which you want to take that chance.
Amy, do you worry about Kemper Arena disappearing from the landscape?
I mean, I haven't been down to Kemper Arena since the Comets played down there. I think, what was that, in the early 80s? So, I mean, I think we've already abandoned Kemper Arena as the building itself, so I'm not going to be sorry to see it go.
It's kind of interesting. We were talking about Sprint, and the arrival of the Sprint Center downtown sounded the death knell for Kemper Arena.
When we built Sprint Center, we were done with Kemper Arena. And nobody really liked going down there for anything anyway. I mean, that's just the real deal. It's location, location, location. That's a bad location. It just wasn't fun.
So come on down, Mariner, and spend $40 million.
But Yale, that West Bottoms area, some people think it's prime for economic development.
So let me quickly disagree with what Gwenda said. I think the location can be improved. Now, we're just talking about, well, what ought to be there. And I agree with Amy. I don't care about having Kemper there.
Right. You've got to develop the entire area to make location.
But you're saying the West Bottoms area could be an economic development tool that would be valuable for the city.
I think he's asking me. So
yeah, I think I am. Gwen, let him answer.
Good Lord, is this how the program's going to go? I mean, we're just
it's called Ruckus.
Absolutely.
We can make a point and then, you know, go on. But yes, economic development would be great in the West Bottoms.
All right. So you don't care if Kemper is demolished. You don't care. You don't care.
I don't care.
Okay. Why doesn't the city just come in and demolish it, Yale?
Well, partly because we're paying off, and we oppose this editorially, all the bonds they issued 10 years ago to make all these improvements. And, you know, I'm sure all the taxpayers would go, what the heck, you're tearing down Kemper? Without getting a return. That's what they want. They want to have a plan from the American Royal saying, hey, this is really better than having an old building standing there.
When will we know what's going to happen to the American Royal and to Kemper Arena?
Well,
next month? Or
well, I don't know if it's next month, but this group meeting, I think they're doing a good job getting everything on the table.
Okay, now it is time for Roast and Toasts.
To roast the man.
Timing is everything. Your turn to celebrate or skewer people and events making news. We start off this week with a couple of emails that were submitted. First up is a roast from Alexa in Kansas City. I would like to roast the violent protesters in Ferguson for creating unnecessary civil unrest and a media circus Martin Luther King would be ashamed of. There is a right way and a wrong way to bring about positive change, and there are far too many doing it the wrong way. And from Art in Miriam, a toast to the Kansas City Royals. When so much is going wrong in the news this summer, our boys in blue are finally giving us something to celebrate. Now, to register your roast or toast, you can email us at ruckus@kcpt.org or call us at 816-398-4404, tweet us at #RuckusKC, or go to our website, kcpt.org/ruckus, or stop me on the street. And that is Ruckus for this week. Join us next Thursday evening at 7. It is great to be back. Thanks to all the panelists. Thanks to you for watching, and good night.
Production funding for Ruckus has been provided by Fred and Lou Hartwig and viewers like you. Thank you.